I've watched the film. I've watched the film at least a couple of times, not only because it's a subject I'm very passionate about. I like Orson Welles, and obviously I'm very much au fait with Citizen Kane, and I know all of that sort of stuff. So this it sort of raised a tremendous amount of interest with me personally. But for you, obviously this is, to look at the film, it looks like a 1930s noir.
Oh, good. I'm happy to hear that.
and it's sort of like Double Indemnity. It's sort of like Maltese Falcon. It's very much in a classic vein.
You're singing everything true to my heart, because Double Indemnity is one of my favorite films, and I actually looked at that quite a bit for just researching, more for research as opposed to tone, but researching sort of the exteriors of Los Angeles, any that were there. We looked at quite a few films trying to gather that information.
Yeah, as I said, I'm curious because you've got a culmination of, obviously you have infra, obviously you've got the camera work, you've got your production design, but you've got the music, which plays very much in unison with the picture and with the production design. It really is it's an ensemble thing, and it's so rare to see. Which leads me to my first question.
Yes.
When it came to the early production meetings, because obviously you've worked with David Fincher a number of times, firstly on Zodiac, and you're also you were involved with House of Cards as well. What were his intentions going into this film?
Well, I mean, I think you hit it earlier when you said, and I was so happy to hear you say it felt like a 1930s film. You know, his intention was to make a movie that felt like it was made in that day. I remember when he first spoke to me about it. Actually, when he first spoke to me about it, we were working on another project that didn't come to fruition. And we were having coffee and kind of discussing it. And he said, oh, and then after this, there's this film that I've wanted to do, and it's black and white period. And, you know, I kind of tabled the discussion of it. And then when that other film pushed in terms of schedule, Mank came to the forefront. And I remember talking to him about it in his office just one day quietly, and just right outside his office. And he was saying, I want it to be like, you know, you're in a film vault, and you see in the vault, you see Citizen Kane, and you pull it out and you go, okay. And then right next to it, there's a film and it's labeled Mank. And you pull that out and you go, gee, what is this? I don't remember this one. And they're grouped together, and you realize that that film was made in the same period as Citizen Kane was. And so that was sort of, that resonated with me so much. And I just kind of carried that special moment of him saying that throughout the whole production of the film. Whenever I was, you know, whenever I felt sort of, you know, not depressed, but whenever I felt challenged by having to recreate the 30s in Los Angeles, or making decisions on things about sets, I'd always kind of step back and say, okay, put yourself in the 30s. That's where we're going to be. That's what this film is. And, you know, really tried to just absorb a lot of black and white photographs from that period and move forth as if I was living in it. And David and I I think we spent 6 weeks together, not an arduous 6 weeks, but 6 weeks of scouting and discussing and going through what the script meant to him, what he saw the film as. It's kind of when the film was made, because we started those 6 weeks before production came on.
Yeah, sure.
And it was just us going out. And, you know, for the first part of it, I got to hear just what he had to say about this film in terms of, you know, what mood-wise, lighting, you know, what he felt should be a set, what should be location. And, you know, there's always a discovery and scouting as to what you can shoot on location and what you need to bring to stage. But, you know, this was a film that he's had in his head for quite a while, I think since the late 90s. And, you know, it was good to hear him just sort of say, you know, in an expository way, what he felt the film was in his mind for that long a time, without all the with all the distractions and the pressures of production around you, that time was really a gift. And I think more than anything, I don't mean to ramble on here, but I think more than anything, that time period kind of gave me a chance to absorb the research, absorb what he had to say, and put myself in the mindset of that period, both visually and just spiritually, sort of, you know.
Did you? I've watched Citizen Kane a couple of times, but it's one of those films that once you've seen it, it stays with you, I think. Was there a conscious choice to maybe take elements and do like a homage pastiche, especially with the San Simeon sets, which and also within the cinematography, with the black and white color palette, which obviously must have impacted to a degree upon the production design choices you made. There are symmetries between the cinematography which happens in Mank and that which obviously is done by Greg Toland within Citizen Kane, with these conscious choices.
Yeah, I think Citizen Kane, we took certain, well, the physicality of the sets in Citizen Kane, for instance, at the end there was that hallway of infinite mirrors, you know, that he walks down, and we actually built that into our hallway for our set, but we didn't make a big issue of trying to, you know, hit people over the head with it and say, oh, look, this was in Citizen Kane, we're doing it here. It was sort of like, if it was noticed, it was noticed, and if it wasn't, it wasn't, kind of. And I think that, to the credit of this film, it didn't try to replicate or even emulate Citizen Kane. It was like Citizen Kane, its presence was in the narrative. Its presence was in the fact that this tortured soul was writing a script, and it turned out to be Citizen Kane. And that's where it existed. And there were certain things that we thought, oh, this would be interesting to bring into it. But we didn't, like I said, we didn't try to pronounce it in such a way that it said to everybody, oh, look what we're doing. We're taking parts of Citizen Kane and incorporating it. I think the black and white was more about the period of filmmaking and how films were made then. I mean, we actually shot the exterior scenes of San Simeon day for night. Those were shot during the day, and we did that. I mean, David did that as a conscious choice because, well, for one thing, it worked out better schedule-wise, and for another thing, it was the technique that's tried and true that they used then, you know. And it was fun to sort of incorporate those techniques into the process, so that you really did feel like you were making that period film.
So, obviously, the Hollywood Golden Age massively influenced your production choices. And the personal nature of the material. Was there anything that you changed in terms of your approach, knowing that obviously David's father had written the script and he felt it, obviously held it quite dear to his heart? Was there anything that you did differently that you would maybe not have done if it were, shall we say, a more
the Bourne Identity?
I'm trying to avoid the use of the phrase mainstream or conventional in terms of
Captain Marvel.
Chalk and cheese, sir.
Well, first of all, I don't think I'd ever become one of those. I don't think they would take me. I didn't really change anything. I mean, again, I think it all came back around to the fact that it was his 30s film. You know, I knew it was very personal to David, but you know, that didn't change the way I work or add any kind of burden onto me. You know, I was very excited to do it. I knew, and to give my best, just because I knew it was personal to him. I think the thing that for me at the beginning on my own, I was researching so many things about Los Angeles and the studios, and I kind of got into the research of San Simeon, and I found a series of photographs that were taken in the day when Hearst was there with those people, and there was a whole series done at night with Marion Davies on the grounds of San Simeon at night, and they were all black and white, and they were the most beautiful photographs. And I remember at that time saying to myself, I'm not going to Hearst Castle. I'm not going to go look at it. I'm not going to go there. I see it in the contemporary books. I see the videos of the tourists going. It feels like I mean, no offense to them, it feels a little bit like a theme park right now.
Yeah, sure.
And we're not trying to replicate, we're trying to emulate. And our story is different from what the reality is a little bit. And, you know, that was sort of a seminal moment for me on the film where I realized, okay, this film, we're making the world that we want, you know. We're not trying to mirror something specifically.
So looking more broadly at your career, you've been nominated for numerous awards. You are one of the lucky few to have been gifted an Oscar in your career. What is it that drives you, that continues to drive you creatively above and beyond, obviously, you know, the work itself and obviously the accolades from your peers that have been forthcoming?
Yeah, well, I'm very grateful for all the recognitions I've received, and I'm very humbled by it, to be honest with you, because I sort of feel like I'm a fool in sheep's clothing, to be truthful. What drives me, I think, is, you know, feeling like I'm working on something purposeful, you know, having a script, you know, beginning with a script that has, where I read something and it strikes my heart and my soul a bit. And then I feel like I can be engaged in it for 6 or 9 months or however long it takes. If it's a script that I don't feel a connection to, I sit and I wonder, okay, I could do this and make the money, but can I get up every day, you know, in a month and a half and pick this up and read it and feel like I'm still part of it? You know, I'm an old art school graduate from the 70s, and, you know, art still means something to me in terms of the connection of the heart and the soul to it. And that's what kind of drives me, is finding purpose in a story. So
as a production designer, I've been lucky enough to speak to a few people who are also in your field. And one of them said, if he had a choice between somebody having huge experience in a given role or the enthusiasm, he would always choose the enthusiasm. So which one would you prefer, if you, within your team of people that you obviously have working with you?
Enthusiasm.
Yeah.
I think enthusiasm with, I mean, there's a balance between these things. I don't think it's not a black and white world. No. At least it isn't to me. And I think there's a balance in these things, but, you know, certain situations demand experience.
Sure.
And enthusiasm can't overcome, you know, certain attributes that you get from people that have experienced certain things and gone through the gauntlet, so to speak. But at the same time, you know, there's a certain energy and excitement with the enthusiasm that you know, somebody kind of new and fresh to it, or at least with a nominal amount of experience that is looking to move up and move on and contribute, brings to a show. You know.
Thank you so much. I have 2 more questions, sir.
Sure.
And then I will leave you in peace, I promise.
No problem. No problem.
One is specifically going back to Mr. Fincher again. You've collaborated, as I've said previously, with him on numerous projects, and he has a reputation for being a perfectionist, B, very, very exacting, which might be one and the same thing, but with him, I suspect not. What is it, do you think, that separates him from filmmakers as in general, in terms within his field?
He knows every aspect, everybody's job. He knows it, and he understands it. So when somebody in picture cars comes with a question about something, when somebody in props comes with a question, whoever it may be, you know, he's able to understand what that question is and give an answer to it. I think the thing about David that I'm impressed with the most, not impressed with, the thing about him that makes it so enjoyable to work with him is that when you come to a project with him, he knows the script. He has the movie in his head. And it doesn't mean that it's locked in and there's no room for flexibility.
Yeah,
but
sure.
it means that he knows the story he wants to tell. He knows how he wants to tell it for the most part. And well, for more than the most part. And he's done his homework. He doesn't come to a project until he knows it. And it's not that discovery thing of like, okay, well, when I get into it, I'll figure it out. That doesn't happen. It's figured out beforehand in terms of what the movie's going to be. And that's the enjoyable part, because, once you get that, like on Mank, the time we spent together, I kind of walk away with this template of what the film will be. And then within that, there's a lot of creative room to bring, things to the show. And, it's enjoyable to have somebody who's really thought it through.
Perfect. As I said, I could pick your brains from now until eternity, but
that's fine. Help yourself. It's enjoyable to me. You're so nice.
Well, okay. I've got you here, so I'm gonna ask you. I have Zodiac, and I have a number of Fincher movies on my shelf.
Okay.
Beyond what else is back there. So there's Zodiac. There's Benjamin Button. So Zodiac seems. All of his films seem very complex, and with that one especially, I'm just curious to know, because Mank and Zodiac, they're completely different films. I mean, it's well documented that he has an interest in things of that nature in terms of the subject matter, purely from a creative point of view. So I'm just curious to know how the two projects sort of work, how they come from the same sort of ballpark, as it were, how he approached them, or I
understand what you're saying. Yeah. They seem like they're on opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to subject matter, and
very much so. Yes.
Yeah. But when you look at Mank, there was so much in it that was sort of like Zodiac, in the sense that, the steno books that were stacked next to the table that showed the passage of time and the way they were stacked, the liquor box and the organization of it, and the method and the forensic quality of it. And, I think that's kind of a commonality between the two, if I could say that. And I don't want to speak on his behalf. And I think also that the thing about David's films, I always find, I think good films, everybody comes away with something about the film that means something to them. And I find with David's films, you kind of have to be looking you have to pay attention to the periphery, because that's where a lot gets told in his films. And I feel that's true both in Mank and in Zodiac. And if you're just looking at the obvious, oh, this is about writing a script or something, yeah, it is, but it's also about quite a few other things. And the same is true with Zodiac. If you look at it and say, oh, this is about finding the Zodiac killer and so forth, and the trials they had doing it, it's also about, people's obsessions and other things. And I think you have to look at it and realize that, David he's very good at saying the movie's going to be about this, and then after you watch it a few times, you realize, well, yeah, but it's also about all these other things that start to grow on you the more you see it.
Yeah, you do get the sense.
At least I feel that way. That's my reaction.
There is an intellect going on behind what you see.
Yeah, and it's not so complicated. It's just, it's that thing where it's almost like right here, and it's, does the world pay attention? That kind of, you know what I mean? They don't pay attention to the obvious,
Right, sir. I'm going to ask you one more question,
sure.
And it's completely off topic.
Okay.
Can you describe for me your perfect Sunday afternoon?
Oh, my perfect Sunday afternoon.
Yes.
Is just sitting in a quiet of my home. That's it. That's my perfect Sunday afternoon.
Perfect. That's absolutely perfect.
Nothing.
It doesn't have to be complicated, sir. I wanted to thank you very much for your time again.
Oh, thank
and
you.
congratulations
so
for
much.
making the shortlist for the BAFTAs today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And as I said, my fingers and toes are crossed for Oscars because it's more than deserving. And
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much again for your time.
You too.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Nice to meet you. Take care.
You too,
Thank
sir.
you.
Take care now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.